Good evening, everyone. Once again, those who came a little bit later, my name is Brahmachari Devendra, and very happy to be here this evening with everyone on Bhagavad Gita Satsang today. So, as usual, we are going to discuss one or two stanzas from the Gita. So, I have chosen this from the chapter 5 of the Gita. This is Swami Kriyananda's book, Essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So, chapter 5 from the Gita, I have taken two stanzas that we can discuss today. The chapter 5 name of this chapter is Freedom Through Inner Renunciation. And there are 29 shlokas in this chapter, and Krishna is talking about what is inner renunciation, and how do we find freedom through inner renunciation, and he talks about actions. So let me read this first two stanzas here, 5.1 and 5.2. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, you speak of renunciation, renouncing the action, yet at the same time you recommend it. I would like to know for certain which of these two is the better path." The blessed Lord answered, "When rightly understood, both action and non-action lead to salvation. Of the two, however, right action is better." So here Krishna says that Arjuna, as a devotee, just like we all are, he's asking his guru, Krishna, that you say renounce everything, but you say that you say also to act. So which is better? And Arjuna and Krishna, the guru, he replies that the right action is better. Both are equal. Action and non-action, both are equal, both are fine. But of the two, right action is better. And then Swami Kriyananda explains that why it is so, why that what is the right action and why it is better for most people. And so when we all come on the spiritual path, most people think that spiritual path means we just sit down and meditate, which is true. But some people think that it's all about meditation. Spiritual path is just about meditating, and we forget that spiritual path is equally important also about the right action, that we all need to act. I wanted to give you a couple of stories from Yogananda Ji's life himself. One time, one devotee who was meditating, probably she was very new, and she came to Yogananda Ji. She said that, "Guruji, I meditated today for 1 hour." And Yogananda Ji looked at her and he said that you should have better meditated only for half an hour, for 30 minutes. You should not have meditated for 1 hour. Why did Yogananda Ji said to her, although we teach that you meditate, but when she was meditating, Yogananda Ji told her that you should have meditated only for 30 minutes. Why? Because Yogananda Ji he could see that she was sitting there for 1 hour. Only the first half she was able to sit and meditate properly. But the last half, when she was sitting, she was very restless, that she was not really even meditating. She was really, really restless. And we all are restless, of course, we meditate. So we all are restless here and there. But probably she was really restless in her meditation. And that's why Yogananda Ji told her that when you meditate with focus, meditate with concentration. And it's better sometime to meditate for shorter time with full focus and concentration than longer time just sitting and thinking of all kinds of things, being too restless. Yet there is another story from Yogananda Ji's life. There was one devotee who was assigned some duty, some seva he was assigned, but he came late. He didn't come on time, but he was probably very late, maybe half an hour late. And when that devotee came to Yogananda Ji and he said, Sir Guruji, I'm sorry, I'm late. I was meditating. Because of that, I'm late. And Yoganandaji replied, he said that's all right. Because that time Yoganandaji could see this devotee was deeper into meditation. He was actually having a deeper meditation. He was actually having a God contact in that meditation. And so he was not thinking that I will just meditate, I will leave my duty, but he was actually so deep that he forgot about performing the outward action. He forgot about that seva that was assigned to him. And so it was perfectly all right in that state when we are in God and we forget things, that's perfectly all right. And so there is a balance. When we are able to meditate, when we can meditate deeply, we should do it. We should do it for longer. But when we are not able to meditate, when we are just sitting and looking at the clock that, oh, I'm going to just sit for 1 hour, then probably it's not right to stretch ourselves too long. Maybe we should meditate a little longer to stretch ourselves, because every meditation goes through ups and downs. That sometimes even in single meditation, we could be very deep, and some next few minutes will be like a little bit restless then. So there is always a balance, that meditation and activity. Now, from Autobiography Yogi, Shri Yukteswarji said, he said that you are, so long as you are breathing the free air of the earth, you are under obligation to render your grateful service. He said that so long as you are breathing the free air of earth, you are under obligation to render, to give your grateful service. So this line from Shri Yukteswarji, it really tells us that when one can be performing outward actions, and when one can go deeper in meditation, when is deeper in meditation, they can renounce the actions. So now who can go into the breathless state? When can we go into the breathless state? One, when we die. Of course, when we die, then we are not breathing. Perfectly all right, we give up all the actions. But there are yogis who can enter into the breathless state whenever they want. There are advanced yogis, and Master said that those are the yogis, they are the true masters. Anytime when we wish to enter into a breathless state, and when we can do so, those are the master. They have achieved the Christ consciousness. And so those are the yogis. For them, it's perfectly all right. They are not bound. They are not under any obligation to give any service, but they give their service. That is the thing, that when a master has achieved that state, they perfectly give their service to the humanity. They help other people so much. And so we take the example of Swami Paravananda from Autobiography Yogi. That small Mukunda Yogananda ji, he comes to Paravananda to meet in Banaras. And he creates a body. He sits there, right there in a very still position, not doing anything, but he creates another body, and he brings the person to whom Mukunda, small Yogananda ji, was supposed to meet. He did a service, but at a very, very deep level, that he was able to perform their service. He didn't move from his position, but he created another body and he brought the person who was supposed to be there. And so we see that there are advanced yogis that even they have achieved that high state, but yet they are offering their services. They are helping everyone. And so that's for us also, that we all need to be performing. We are under obligation until we achieve that state of breathlessness. We are under obligation to give the service. And how should be the service? A grateful service. That's what Shri Yukteswarji says, that you need to render, you're under obligation to render a grateful service. And that's the key that will free us from the law of karma. When we offer our services as a grateful services, that we are grateful, that I am grateful that I'm given this chance to give the service. And when we serve, when we do every action with that attitude, we'll find, we'll achieve that state. Then when we go beyond the law of karma, then because most of us are born into a family, into a situation at a time because of our karmas, nothing else. And so the question arises, how do we go beyond the karmas? How to get rid of all the desires is by offering the grateful services. And when we do everything as a grateful service, whatever we are doing in life, I'm grateful here that I'm able to offer this satsang to all of us as a channel of the Guru. And so that's a way that I always feel like that. And so anything, even a little thing we could do in our life, when we feel like that, then we are offering our services as a grateful services. And then we are going to be free from the law of karma. Now, there are a couple of more stories that here I wanted to share with you, my own stories, that when I came on the spiritual path in the beginning, just like most people, I thought, after a few months, I learned meditation. I thought, okay, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to read, I'm not going to do anything else. This was even before I came to Ananda. I was not part of Ananda at that time, but I learned meditation from somewhere else. And I thought, okay, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to read, and I'm going to not meet anyone, and I'm just going to be myself. And I did it for 7, 8, 9 days. But you know what happened after that 7, 8, 9 days? I could not even meditate. I was done with it because I was so new and I did whatever I could do and I was done with it. Had I been engaged in some activities, had I kept my mind active, my body more active, I could have done for longer. Another story I'll tell you of my own story. That one time, this is after I came to Ananda, after a few years, one time I thought I'll take some seclusion for 4 or 5 days. And so I was on the land, I came to the land, Pune community, that outside ashram. So I said, I had a kutir there, and I said, okay, I'll stay for 4 or 5 days, and I will take seclusion for 4 or 5 days. And what happened that time, that unfortunately there was no electricity in that kutir, and so by 6 or 6:30 in the evening there was no light, there was no sunlight, and I was forced to basically either do small little things, not even could read in the candlelight or so much, and I would meditate as much as you can, but I slept a lot also in that seclusion. And after 4 or 5 days, when I came out and I went into my activity, and I felt, because when you go into seclusion, when you meditate, you charge yourself, you develop that, you charge yourself with the deep peacefulness, calmness. But I felt that after a few days, usually when you go into seclusion, you feel charged for at least few weeks. You will feel that. But when I came out of this seclusion, I could feel only few days. And after that few days, I was completely done. That charge that I felt from that seclusion, that small seclusion, meaning that I could not meditate that long. I did not meditate that long as I should have done that because of various reasons, we can say. So here is a clue that for most of us, those who cannot sit even for long meditation, it's always good to give your services, be active and give your services. Even when we are able to meditate, always meditate as a feeling that you are meditating to please God, that you're not meditating to please yourself. Oh, look at me, how long I can meditate. I meditated today for 2 hours or 3 hours or 5 hours. But when we think like that, we're not really, offering a grateful service that of meditation even also. So Master said, Yoga Vaidya said that meditate to please God. And so opposite could also happen. If one can meditate longer and they can get into a habit of ego consciousness, oh, I can meditate longer. But other people, they cannot meditate longer. And so even meditation, when we do, think of as a service, think as an offering to God, to gurus, that even if meditation is good, I give it to you. If the meditation doesn't go good, doesn't go well, I give it to you, God. It's everything I'm doing is to please you. All the actions, all the seva, all the meditation, all the chanting, even when we chant, we offer our voice to God as a service to God, as a service that we can uplift other people, not to think of ourselves that how, oh, look at me, how nice I could sing, how nice I can chant, not to even think about that. And so every action that we do, it should be offered as a grateful service. As Shukteswarji said, that we are bound to offer as a grateful service. And if you're bound, why not to accept it and offer this as much willingly, as much joyfully as we can? And so Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that action, a rightful action, a right action is better than non-action. So every action that we perform is to please God. And finally, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, of course, I would like to read that line from this description of the same passages, where Krishna says ultimately we all have to we all have to come to the state where Krishna himself says, get away from my ocean of suffering and misery. So all the actions that we are performing is to get away. Krishna says that my word, this word is ocean of suffering and misery, get away from it. And so perform all actions that we get away from this suffering and misery, and we achieve eternal happiness in God, in gurus, we can say, because they are same, because they have the same consciousness. And so there's one more line that I wanted to say here, or read here. Krishna says, he says, to fulfill one's outward duty is a higher path. And so let's all remember that wherever we are, whatever God has given, that situation, wherever we are, let's be grateful and let's perform that as a service to God in whatever situation we are.